Good evening. Let me bring the Inland Wetlands Commission of New Canaan to order. This is Monday, October 16th, 2023. Will the secretary take the roll, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Here.
Mr. Stepanek.
Here.
Ms. Jameson here. Ms. Brunali.
Present.
Mr. Perkins.
Here.
He's on the Zoom.
Yeah. Ms. Sanford is not here. Mr. Sillo is not here. Ms. Woike.
Here.
Ms. Asley.
Here.
Mr. Ramirez is not present. Mr. Reddin.
Here.
Thank you.
All right, let me appoint Katie Osley to take Beth Sanford's place tonight. Sandy Redden, would you take Anthony Zillow's place tonight?
Yes.
And George Perkins, who's on Zoom, has asked to become a alternate member tonight. Okay, and I see you're up there, George. So I'm assuming you still, because you weren't sure what was going to happen if you're going to be here. So anyway, here you are. But you want to become an alternate member? Fine. Just remember that you can do anything. You can discuss. You can ask questions. The only thing you can't do is vote. Okay.
Understood. And looking forward to the meeting.
All right. Good. Thank you. You all have a copy of the agenda. Any comments, deletions, anything? Can I hear a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Priscilla, you going to second it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 18th. You all have a copy of that. Any deletions, comments, or anything? If not, can I hear a motion? I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All right. Katie's going to second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good. Open the regular meeting. We have three applications in that we're scheduled to hear on November 20th, 2023. I won't go through them right now. Schedule site visit for Thursday, November 9th for these three applications. I'm going to take a poll and see who can make. So it's a Thursday. It would be 8 o'clock on November 9th. Sandy, can you make it?
I can.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, Katie. Priscilla?
Yes.
Yes,
I might
that's
have to
three.
leave early, but I can make most of it.
Okay. Beth?
Thursday mornings do not work for me. Thursday mornings do not work.
It does not work.
Yeah.
Angela?
Yes, I can make that.
I can make it. George?
Yes, I can make it.
All right, good. You good enough? Okay. All right. So the site visit for these three applications will be on November 9th. All righty. So now we'll start the meeting tonight. Application number 23-2407, 45 Beach Road. Walter and Patricia Varian. I'm going to read this. Remove fill within wetlands and upland review areas, stabilize disturbed areas with lawn and mitigation plantings, install boulders as a buffer demarcation feature, and remove erosion controls from wetlands. Agent is Robert Frangione. And who is?
Good evening. I'm Frangione, here for the applicant, or for the owner. With me tonight is Matt Pop, environmental scientist, and Walter Varian, the owner. Otto is hopefully on his way, our soil scientist. Kathy, it's still not letting me share screens.
Hold on just a minute. Katie,
Yeah.
Can you assist me just for a minute on sharing the screen?
Yeah.
Are you, yeah, no? I don't see why I'm not able to share the screen. And I thought maybe you were most technically savvy. So I'm the co-host and it just.
Yeah, I'm in the Zoom. If you go onto my name with the 3 dots, can you like?
Yeah, that's what we looked at and it's not. Chat, that's his news. Name. Oh yeah, let's try that. I'm gonna try to make you a co-host, Ron. Carry away, man.
Oh, the havoc that I'll wreak.
Yeah, you should have that option. You take away the colors when you leave it as only as one of these. And then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, let me just go in the back and see if I got all that.
Mhm.
You mind coming?
Yeah.
Sorry, just a minute, we will get ourselves.
I could see this outside here. Yeah, I'm sure, but
Okay.
we got 2 minutes.
Yeah, go ahead. I can get started.
Because I can see him standing outside like that.
The suspense is killing me. Remember the old days when we used to use presentation boards? You know, way back in 2021. What? Let's see. Yay, okay. Now let's see, which one is that?
Yeah, I don't know that I was that helpful, but.
It's a new one, let me tell you.
Great success. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. You should be all set.
Are we set?
Yeah. He's just.
So, Mr. Frangione,
Whoops, I just zoomed out about from the space. Okay. So, as I said, we have our team here tonight. I'm hoping that Otto can make it. So long story short, I think everyone here was at the site walk, correct? So,
no, I did my own site visit.
Okay. So you've seen the site. Basically, Phil was brought in this area between the septic system and the wetlands. Some fill was deposited within the wetlands inadvertently. That has been removed. Mr. Varian engaged Otto Thiel to go out and try to figure out where are the wetlands. You know, because it's unfortunately once the trees are cut and the fill's brought in, it's anybody's guess. So he was out there 4 times with a machine digging to try and find where this old wetland line was. And he was confident, and in his report, which has been submitted, shows that basically parallel to Beach Road. That's where we have the metal stakes that show the wetland flags. He dug his holes kind of going across so he could see where the wetland soils ended and where the upland soils began. And that's why he was confident with his demarcation of the line that is near the drainage ditch and by Beach Road. Now, he also did some test holes between the septic system and where he flagged the wetlands. And again, this is in his report. They were done near where that soil stockpile is shown on the site plan. And what it found was newer fill over historic fill over some remnant wetland. Now, the existing septic system, which was built in the 1950s, is right on the edge of where the disturbed area is. Back in the 50s, and as recent as I'd say the early 2000s, it was customary for a fill system to have a fill pack that extended 15 to 25 feet down gradient. Because if the septic had to be up high, you need the designs at the time had a 15-foot select fill layer, and then you tapered down back to original grade. So likely what had happened when this septic was built is they put this system in and then they filled 15 to 25 feet down. Now we've provided in our application materials the aerial photos that go back several years and show that this area was lawn. So that there was some wooded area basically by where the driveway was. Again, the driveway's been there since the house was built in the 50s. So there was always a crossing to get to the property. And I think between Otto's extensive soil sampling and the just photo evidence of what so we saw with our eyes, I think that's a good line. And I think we're confident, and that's where the wetlands should be as far as a regulated area. And from there, we can move forward. And so what the plan is to remove about 70 yards of material, because we do need to, 60 cubic yards of material, because we do need to comply with zoning regulations for fill slopes. So we need to get a 4-on-1 slope on the fill that's there. All the fill has been removed from the wetland proper. So the plan going forward would be to plant the area closest to the wetlands, and Matt can go into his planting plan in more detail. Then provide a buffer demarcation area or buffer demarcation feature. Right now on the plan, we show sunken boulders. My client respectfully requests the ability to put in a split rail fence, if that's a viable option for the commission. And then upland of the buffer area, basically restore the lawn back to the way it was prior to all this disturbance. We've prepared an alternative plan, and basically what it does, and let me see if this pops up. The only real difference between the alternative plan and the current plan is we just pull back more of the fill out. The planting plan stays the same. It's just removing more of the fill. Now, it takes out about another 110 cubic yards of fill. And the only problem with that, other than everybody feeling good about more fill being taken out, it kind of exposes the site to potential erosion during construction into the wetlands. The fill is there, or the wetlands are there. We know where the wetland line is. We now have all the fill out of it. Taking fill out of the upland, the only benefit of that is psychologically we've taken fill out of the upland review area. It's more punitive to my client, and when it's all said and done, we're just going to we're going to plant per Matt's planting plan anyway. So we provided that alternative plan because we are required to show alternatives. It is a feasible plan. I just don't think it's the most prudent plan. The most prudent plan, in my opinion, is the plan that we've put forth, which is to comply with the zoning regulations for fill slopes, and then provide the mitigation planting shown in our plan. That's really all I have. Matt, if you'd like to, I can put your planting
Sure.
plan up here. Um,
I'm Matt Pop, a landscape architect, professional wetland scientist, and environmental land solutions out of Norwalk. I was on the the Greenwich Wetlands and Watercourses agency for a number of years. Right now I'm on Parks and Rec. I prepared the planting plan before you. What I tried to do, obviously we're using native plants, but I tried to do when you have a watercourse, I tried to provide shade for the watercourse to keep the temperature down to reduce thermal pollution. So I proposed 4 shade trees, oaks, 3 oaks, and I think a black gum, and then 3 understory trees, 2 dogwoods and a shad, and then a number of native shrubs. There's 26 of them. Usually I don't go as heavy on the shrubs as I used to, I think, because it seems like over time they disappear with deer eating them, and deer are either somewhat deer tolerant or resistant. There's such a thing. So so in the last few years, I've been going more heavily on trees. We just have to protect the bark from the deer rubbing on them. And then the area downslope of the boulders, in the wetland buffer, I'll call it, that gets seeded with a native seed mix. So it'd be like a meadow mix. I think I would agree with Rob's statement that, with the extra fill being removed on the alternative, I don't see the wetland benefit to increase the functions of the wetland by removing the additional fill. So I think I would agree with this assessment on that. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Rob, let me ask you, this is Dan Stepani. There are 2 areas of fill. Is that correct on that one? There's a one that the fill that was put in. Do you have any idea when that was in the 50s?
right, it would have been in the 50s when the lot was
50s.
developed.
And how deep is that fill? Do you have any feeling?
I don't know how deep that is. Unfortunately, we don't have that soil log for that. So someone's trying to get in, Kathy. Just
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Now that I'm a co-host, I get to see yeah, I
What would you
unfortunately
guess?
I would say the older fill was probably a couple of feet deep, which would therefore would have disqualified that area as a wetland because of the historical fill that was on top. So basically, there was the old fill or remnant wetland, old fill, some wood chips that were brought in that from the trees that were taken down, and then the new fill on top of that. And so the total depth is, depending on where you were, it was anywhere from 2 to 4 feet. From as I recall, from Otto told me
2 to 4 feet. What now? What
of total fill, but between
old and new.
Old and new. Yes.
Old and so what's on top of the old fill?
Is the new fill.
Exactly. There's no layer of anything on between the
some
two?
wood chips. There was the old fill, some topsoil because it was lawn. Basically, this whole area was lawn. I'm going to see if I can open up real quick. Oh shoot, no, I can't because I'm not connected to my server. Damn. The aerial photos that we showed this whole area as lawn. Well, basically to the wall, the stone wall for the driveway crossing, there was lawn up to that wall prior to the variants bringing this current round of fill in.
So what you're saying is that the fill was put on top of, partially on top of an existing lawn. The lawn was at a different grading.
Right.
So it was graded down.
Yes.
That's
yes, because we were
saying.
the existing septic system is here, and that naturally graded down to the wetlands. And so this area between the septic system and the wetlands was filled in lawn area 1950s to 2022. And then the variants brought in fill on top of the thin layer of topsoil and fill that was there below the septic system.
So
And what's this fill right now? What do you know? Have any idea what the lower fill is?
No,
Do you have, and then what about the upper fill? What is that?
So, so Mr. Varian, he got it from a contractor. They provided a soil analysis, and I'll submit this for the record. They were basically doing a DEP testing to make sure that there weren't any like hydrocarbons or any stuff like that. It came from McGee Avenue in Stamford. I'm looking at this as far as, you know, petroleum products or anything like that. The lab report doesn't show any red flags. It doesn't say like, you know, fails criteria. And in fact, you know, for extraneous petroleum, it says ND, you know, not detected. And a couple of other things here that's on here. It's within their % recommended limits. So is it the best fill in the world? No. Is it hazardous? Based on this report, I would say that it's not.
It's not.
So it's construction debris. So
it's construction.
Some of it's construction debris. So there was, I mean, on the
stones
site,
there. Is it dirt? Is it what?
There's soil mixed with some bricks, mixed with some
brick.
You're
saying brick?
Up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the greatest stuff to look at, but
This
it's
is Sandy
not...
Redden. There's also asphalt in there quite a bit.
Okay.
Metal.
Hmm?
There's metal.
Metal, yeah.
Very obvious.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
large
big
chunks.
chunk of metal. Yeah, there was a piece of steel sitting on the ground.
This soil analysis, from how many locations did they test the soil?
It was from a stockpile that was this.
So the two big stockpiles.
It was provided by the. I want to get my.
This
Was it done on site?
No, it was given to the
So
owner.
we didn't. So this test that says the soil doesn't have contaminants was not done on location.
No, it was given to the owner from the supplier, and that is what he relied on.
So what is the date of this soil analysis?
Looking at it quickly, I wish I had had this as part of your record
I know.
prior to. I had asked for this, but
when did you get this?
Just now.
He's had it.
You get it now. But when
did
did he get it?
Well, you got it one May.
I didn't even know I had it. It was in the Facebook Messenger because that's where I was getting the soil. And when I went back, when he brought up a site visit that you guys wanted to have a soil sample potentially, I went back into Facebook and found it there. Facebook Messenger. It's like a instant messenger type of application.
That's where he bought the fill from.
So
the date
online.
The date on the record that I'm looking at quickly is Monday, December 12th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Your filling
was earlier, yeah.
That was after.
Was after.
The fill was brought in May, right?
April.
Yeah.
So
April.
That's what he gave me. I'm just
the fill was on site in April of 2023.
Totally.
So this testing was done in December of 2022.
Totally.
I don't know how we can possibly verify that this is. So I'm just being honest. I hope this is accurate, but I'm not comfortable with this report being on a stockpile that was down in Norwalk. It's the same material that's been transported to your site. The one thing I do want to say, Sandy, believe it or not, in my little research about what's considered clean fill, asphalt can be considered clean fill. Brick can be considered clean fill. Concrete can be considered clean fill. You're in agreement?
Concrete and bricks for sure.
And asphalt now is included. So just I learned that the other day. I just wanted to put that out there.
As per deep, is that what you mean, Kathleen?
Yeah, deep. It's in the definition of clean fill.
Right.
Otto Thiel has joined us. Thank you, Otto. Grab a seat right there if you'd like. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
But unverifiable.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable with this. I'm happy to pass it along for commission members to take a peek at it as well. I'm sorry, just have that one.
This is Angela.
Question just the stone wall that you referred to that the grass was up to. That stone wall appears to be new.
I think some of it was rebuilt because again, there was a driveway there. And the pictures that I had provided as part of this application, one of them was before any of the work was done, and it showed that there was a wall there. It was much shorter, but there was something there to basically keep people from going off into the side. So, you know, as part of this application, what we're hoping to do is legitimize that.
So Mr. Varian might be able to add some information to
Yeah,
this.
what I was gonna say is I think, I'm sorry. I think Rob, when we first met, showed you pictures from a Google, right, Rob?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was going back maybe 10 years, 15 years, something like that. And you
Yeah.
were showing aerial pictures that there was lawn. The wall is relatively new.
So let's just be clear. The walls that I believe the commissioner may be asking about are the walls that are on either side of the driveway. Is that correct? So you had indicated to me that those were new walls when we met way back in April.
Yes.
So those walls on either side of the driveway are part of a new project that Mr. Varian had okayed someone to do. And they also are in the regulated area for this application and should be addressed and questions answered regarding this, the manner in which they were constructed, any changes. Their location at least has been added to the surveying information that's here. The culvert is the existing culvert that runs on the driveway, so there was no change to the culvert. I think I can comfortably say that. The driveway certainly is the existing driveway that has not been changed. So the construction of those stone walls should have been something that was done prior with permission, either administrative permission or through the commission. Do you know anything about the footing detail for those walls or how they were constructed? Do you have any of that information? No. Okay.
This is Angela Jameson. We were expecting that the additions to the stone wall were going to be covered in the application that you have just recently submitted. I don't believe that it has been. I don't, as Kathleen Holland says, we don't have any details. So is somebody able this evening to talk us through exactly what was done and how?
I cannot, because I wasn't, excuse me, I wasn't there when it was being built. I came onto the scene in June.
Well, there is a sign for a contractor that is outside, just by the wall. I assume that contractor is the one that did the work on the wall. Mr. Varian, what kind of drawings and specifications did you receive from the contractor regarding the work that was carried out?
I mean, I sort of let him do his thing. You know, I gave him the idea what I wanted, and he just did it. There was no drawings done. It was obviously no permit. That's, you know, what Kathleen just said. So I couldn't speak to that. I'm not sure. I thought this was part of the application, the stone wall, as it's part of the.
I do have on there the language to legitimize the wall.
You do?
I did.
It's in the very beginning of the project narrative, but then there's no further detail provided.
Because I have none to give. I didn't see it. So,
I mean, typically when a resident comes forward and wants to do work to a wall that is right where the wetlands are, it, you know, is part of a bridgeway that covers a water course, we would get a lot of details ahead of time, exactly what was intended, how it was going to be done. And so you're just asking us to provide you with approval for the work that was already carried out without a permit, without providing us with any details at all of what happened?
Yes, because I can't provide this. These are the aerial photos. It took me forever to load them. I didn't witness the walls being built, so I can't say how they were built. Now, they aren't retaining walls as far as I know. They're basically just freestanding walls. So from an engineering standpoint, I'm not worried about them retaining soil.
Mm-hmm.
If they met top again, if they failed, they're not. There's no soil behind them that's getting washed down to the wetland areas. They look to be maybe 2 feet high at the maximum, I think, just from a photo I'm looking at. They're mortared. They're probably 16 inches wide, maybe 18 inches wide or so. But something like that might not have their footing might be 18 inches down. I would be surprised if a contractor went 3 feet down for a wall like that.
Frost, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Varian, do you recollect when the contractor was doing the wall construction? Did they use heavy machinery? Did they use a backhoe, or was it all handwork?
Handwork.
It was all handwork.
Yeah.
This is an excuse me, an aerial photo from 2018. Again, it shows the driveway and it shows where the lawn limit was, and that's, like I said, in keeping with where that wall is now. So, and this was all submitted as part of the application package. So I think to go forward, you know, what we're seeking from the commission is obviously legitimize the wall that's there, and do plan A, which is remove some of the material, leave the majority of it in place, and plant.
This is Commissioner Brunelli. You were talking about the aerial photos that show lawn. Another, I say, distinct feature of those aerial photos is a lot of shade coverage provided by trees. And granted, there's a difference in time of year from when those photos were taken and when we had our site visit. But you did reference trees being cut down. How many trees were cut down between the wetlands and the upland review area?
I'm going to take a stab here, and I could be wrong, but I would guess 3 to 5 trees in the area.
There was at least 5 trunks sitting on the property, so there was at least 5. Again, I can't answer that question.
Part of the issue is the variance started a lot of the activities prior to this group, this group getting involved. So I know we're trying to sort some of these things out. I too was going to ask the question about trees because we had that interview initially when I came out to the site. What happened first? You took trees down. How many trees? And unfortunately, at that point in time, it was very difficult to tell because the filling had already been largely done at that point. So, Rob, you recollect seeing 5 trunks stockpiled somewhere?
Yes, to the right of the driveway as you're facing it. One of the things I tried to do to kind of try to piece this puzzle together was on the site plan, and I don't know if you can follow the hand on here, is I took the town's GIS map, and the town GIS map shows a distinction between like tree cover and lawn. And what I did was I traced that line onto the plan. Now, again, is it accurate? No, but it's something. It's some way of trying to piece this puzzle together. And you know, it showed a couple of trees in like this big circle. That was a tree that I scanned from the GIS, and this circle here was another tree that appeared on the GIS.
Are those existing, currently existing, or were removed trees?
Those are removed trees.
Okay.
This tree, which is dead, which I'm circling now, that also shows up on the GIS. That is going to be removed because it's dead. And then oddly enough, these trees out here in the wetlands that are still existing, those show up pretty good on the GIS.
So I don't mean to interrupt, just to be clear, that one tree is one that you're asking for permission to remove as part of this application.
Yes, because it is dead. It ain't coming back. So, you know, again, this was all trying to piece together where was the regulated area before this project began. And this was just based on aerial photos, GIS mapping, and, you know, this limit of lawn, as we have shown from the GIS, is again consistent with a fill pack that was down gradient of a septic system that was built in 1957. So I think all of these little pieces together helps us substantiate that.
Just to clarify, your thoughts on the septic system, that's supposition. It's not based on any sort of old construction drawings or...
Right, it's based on my knowledge. I designed septic systems as part of my profession, and I have knowledge of how they were constructed in the 50s, and even though it was long before I was around, but that practice continued until I would say about 2000, because that's when the health code still required a 15-foot select fill package on the down slope side. And then you would go out with common fill until you went back down to existing grade. Nowadays, you don't need as much select fill, but again, this is all piecing together what was there before any of this work was done or something.
I can add to that a little bit. I did research the property once I became knowledgeable that there was an issue here. The health department records are actually really pretty good for a lot of our properties here in New Canaan. The variance property does date back to the 50s, I believe, is when the house was constructed. There are some septic records that indicate fill being placed on the property. I think it was actually a little later. It was an odd one. They put like 5 feet of fill. I'm recalling back to April. To try to do like a repair of the septic system. That was in the 70s prior to wetland regulation. So there is something in the record. It's an older record that indicates fill would have been placed or was placed in order to accommodate something with the septic system. There's not a lot in the record, but there's definitely something that indicated fill.
Angela Jameson, for the record, I think it would be interesting to hear from Otto Thiel, the soil scientist, about the demarcation of the wetland line as it was prior to the most recent 2022 fill. Perhaps you could just talk us through how confident you are that what we see now is where the wetlands demarcation boundary was before the area was filled in.
Okay. Yeah, well, there was some filling that was done in that area, what they are showing as the disturbed area between where the septic system was, and I'm assuming the stockpile is not there anymore, or is it?
Nope, stockpile's still there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, what I did was I did a number of trenches up by the near the edge of where the stream is going. Okay. And what I was able to do was, and of course we had machines out there to dig the trenches. There was at least 4 or 5 trenches that were perpendicular to the stream. And what I was able to see was, as we went up from where the edge of the wetland is now, you could see that, that there was wetland type features, some evidence that's been wetlands there. But then as it started to go up farther up, then the higher part of the trench didn't show wetland features. So there was kind of a gap there. And then I don't know if that is enough information for what you're referring to, or there were other trenches that we dug just to make sure whether or not there was, and so there were some, there was some evidence of wetland soils, but I think we came to the conclusion that because of the septic system being right there, for like 60 years, there was water flowing down toward the low end of the property. And so our conclusion was that was probably there, before any of us got there to try to work on it. So there are some, areas higher up, closer, like say near the stockpile, that does show some wetlands in a few of the test holes that we did.
So what probability do you assign to the line that you've actually drawn here that shows the demarcation of the wetlands prior to the fill? I mean, it doesn't sound like you're at 100%.
Prior to the fill?
Yes.
The most recent fill.
The most recent fill.
Not the historic fill from when the septic system was. I think what your question is the wetland line as shown, the numbered flags are shown. What is your confidence level with that being the demarcator of the wetland? Keeping aside that below the septic system, we know that we suppose that at some point there was wetlands there, but they've been historically filled over before we got involved.
Right.
I think that's Yeah, I tried to make it clear, but I think I just made it more long-winded. Sorry.
I think you helped by saying that. So, yeah, I mean, you know, I went down close to where the edge of the wetland was, and we dug perpendicular to where the stream is, and naturally going, you know, it drops down into where the stream is, but pulling back and creating those trenches helped us to see, well, yeah, I mean, there's skunk cabbage there, you know, at the edge, but more importantly, you know, we saw you know, wetland features down in the subsoil layer, and so I was confident that that was, you know, legitimate, you know, a legitimate you know, part of the wetland. You know, because there is some fill there. There was some fill put in there. So when you get beneath that fill, you see those wetland features. So, but again, as we went farther to the west, that petered out. So there was an area where there wasn't any wetland features in those trenches. So I think you had some water coming down, you know, because of the pitch that was pitching it to the road. But we, you know, like what Rob was saying is, you know, I think there was a lot of that water was going through there for 60 plus years, 66 years, something like that. And so it's not a big surprise that we would see, you know, wetland features higher up, because that was going through there. But, and then of course we had the fill, that there was fill put in. So I think I'm confident that Rob is that we've done what we can, you know, as far as figuring out where the edge of the wetland is. And well,
it's undoubtedly a very difficult task, and we accept that, but we're trying to get to the confidence level of you as a professional expert that you can accurately demarcate where the wetland line was prior to the 2022 fill that Mr. Varian had brought in. Are you somewhat confident? Very confident? Entirely confident?
In other words, you're asking me if the wetlands was higher up. Is that what you're kind of asking?
Yes, I mean what level of confidence you have that where you have demarcated that wetland line to be was actually the case, but given all the difficulties that you encountered in trying to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think that's I think that's the best that we're going to get out of it.
But what is the best? Is it somewhat confident, very confident, for example?
Well, again, I mean, maybe I'm just repeating myself, but you know, going down, you know, close to where the stream is, that's where we started. Not in the stream, obviously, but nearby, and we did maybe 5 channels going up perpendicular to the stream, and at, you know, like near where the edge of the wetland is, we saw wetland features, which wasn't a big surprise because there was skunk cabbage and whatnot, and we're close to the stream. But as we went uphill, that changed, and there was a gap where we were in the channel, same depth, no wetland features. So there was a gap between the back end of those trenches that we dug, the first trenches, and then when we got up, you know, sort of in the middle area before you hit the stockpile area. And so in kind of like, if you cut it in thirds, you've got the stream here, and then those wetland trenches, but then at the upper end of those trenches, no wetland features at all. And then again, yeah, you find some wetland features farther up, but I think again, I guess I'm just repeating.
Correct me if I'm wrong. As you were doing those perpendicular trenches and you saw the gap from where there was no wetland features or wetland features to no wetland features, that's where you set your line.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the stakes that are in the ground.
Make that clear.
So, on Matt Pop, I've known Otto for probably 30 years or more. I've been on site with him when he's delineated wetlands. He probably digs more holes than any other soil. He does dig more holes than the other soil scientists I know. He spends more time. So I think when I see Otto's wetland line on the map, I have absolutely no question that's where the wetland line is. Probably to the best of any soil scientist's ability to delineate where it is.
Well, thank you for that addition, Mr. Pop. I mean, no one is impugning Mr. Thiel's very great competence, but this is an extremely challenging task, even for the very best of soil scientists, given the amount of fill that was brought in 2022, and the fact that there was no delineation of the wetland prior to that. So I'm sure it was a very huge challenge, and we're grateful to everybody for the work that they've done to try and help us decide where the wetlands were before the most recent fill was brought in.
Yeah, we're basically trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube at this point. So.
Commissioner Bernelli, I had one question, follow-up question relating to these test holes. You were talking about taking these soil samples, and I may have misunderstood, but it sounded like in the wetlands, where there was some of the wetland soil, you said underneath the fill. Is that correct? Was there, did you need to go up? Did you need to go under fill down to the wetland soils?
I think there was some fill in that area.
Yes. Right, between the septic system and the whole stockpile area, that's where there would have.
I'm speaking specifically with regards to the wetlands area.
Right. Okay.
So I think what you're asking is we have confirmed there was fill recently put over the newly flagged wetland line. That fill now has been removed.
Correct.
So that's what I understand. So the line that Otto has confirmed, I can't read the flag numbers, but I think it's 5 through something. Mm-hmm. That is 5 through, I can't read
5 through 9, basically. Yeah. So,
but if you were to go to the right of flag 5, there was fill over that area.
Okay.
That fill has been removed. So I think it's probably fair to say this has been one of the more challenging soil evaluations for any soil scientist to do. So I appreciate all the hard work that everyone's put into getting this one rectified. When I met with the homeowner back in April, I told them this is not going to be easy. It's not going to be pretty, and no one's going to want this job. And it's what I had to be honest. This was a pretty bad. This was a very serious situation at this location. So Otto, again, I know Angela is not questioning Otto's ability. She's just trying to get onto the record your verification that you're comfortable with that line as the soil scientist, because that's your job. It's not Rob's job. It is your job. I think in total, I mean, I know I met out there more than once with you guys once we were, well, with mostly Otto and the homeowner and the contractor when we were trying to determine how are we going to do this evaluation, because we had 4 to 5 feet of fill possibly over wetlands. So, that was sort of strategy number 1. Let's come up with a game plan of how are we going to do this evaluation, not do any further harm to the property, get the commission the information that they need in order to make a comprehensive decision. So the one thing you didn't mention, to the north of the driveway, I know you did testing on that area too. I don't believe you spoke about that area. Could you just speak briefly about that area and what your findings were?
Where it's depicted as a ditch?
To the north of the driveway. So if you were in a car driving up the driveway, to the right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So right there, if you look closely, where the stone wall kind of ends, it goes over, but it goes over and then close to the beach road. There's what they're depicting as a ditch,
right?
And I could be wrong, but I thought that I had demarcated that as well. So I don't know. I thought I had done that as well, but maybe.
It should be indicating a water course at that point. It is a water course.
Basically, that's what I think that's what the ditch is indicating.
And the ditch could have been a term that was pulled over from the surveyor.
Surveyor, right.
So that is a water course.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe you also had told me that you'd done additional evaluation up into the disturbed area and did not find any wetland soil.
Oh yeah, but that was high. That was higher up.
That's the area that I was.
So the edge of the ditch, is obviously that the flow through there is there's a water course going through there. But yeah, there was this disturbed area here. Basically, I'm sure if you're looking at the maps, you can see that it says disturbed area.
Mm-hmm.
But so basically, I didn't find any wetlands in there. I did at least three holes there,
mm-hmm.
kind of spread apart. About one on the far end, one in the middle, one toward the closer to where the ditch is or water course. So, and I didn't find any wetland features there.
Thank you. So the map should be corrected to make sure that ditch gets included as a water course for anything future. I can't really tell. There's so many lines on this one, but I feel like I see a little triangle.
Yeah, it's. I mean, they have the ditch delineated.
It could be there.
Yeah.
Okay,
so.
Great.
So Angela Jameson, for the record, I think one issue we really need to discuss regarding what is being proposed here is you're not proposing, as I understand it, to remove all the additional fill that was brought in 2022.
So just for the record, it was 2023.
Sorry,
April of 2023.
2023. Yeah. You're not proposing to remove all of it.
No, just some.
Just some. But how can we be certain that what has been imported into this property will not in any way contaminate the wetlands as water flows downhill after heavy rain and storms? We really have nothing that tells us that the fill that was brought in is safe to remain here, and we have an obligation to protect the wetlands and the quality of water here in the town of New Canaan.
So I think the only way forward is to take a couple of grab samples of what's on site and have it tested. I don't see any other way forward if we want to keep it there.
So you're talking about digging out 2 feet? Possibly 2.5 feet, 3
feet down, just getting random samples of the fill and having them tested by the same Phoenix Environmental Laboratories. There aren't that many testing facilities in Connecticut, so
they are a certified lab. I'm not objecting to Phoenix at all. They are a certified lab recognized by the state of Connecticut. It's just the fact that we don't have a really good chain of custody on the fact that samples were taken in Norwalk, and I don't know what was brought to New Canaan. So I did have this as a special condition. If the commission were likely to make a decision this evening, I believe you saw my staff report.
Yes.
I had a recommendation for confirmation. The only way to confirm it is to take samples on site. I think more than two should be it should be more than two.
More than two
samples.
But I'm still going back to that the fill that was put in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I can't understand. You put 2 feet of fill in there, about 2 or 3. Then you put something over it like grass or something. Is this true now? And then you put another 2 feet in. Why not do it all at once? Why not do everything in the 50s? Why is there just this?
Well, the property would have been a little bit. The fill that was brought in for 2023 was for the purpose of flattening out the yard a little bit. The fill that was brought in the 50s was brought in to basically, get your septic system area back down to grade and provide some front lawn. Basically, what they did was there was grass that was there and topsoil, and the variance contractor just brought the fill in and pushed it out over the fill that was there. So that's why you have a fill sandwich with fill on top of fill.
So maybe Mr. Varian can tell us what was your intention?
Yeah, well, the property was sort of relatively flat, normal slope, and then had a big drop off, into like a four foot ditch, I would call it.
4 foot in the middle of your yard?
Well, it would go down towards the wetlands and then probably a little bit below the sewer system, septic system. There was a drop off that was probably 3 to 4 feet. And the kids were constantly playing, and they're right there. And we have little kids, and we were worried they were going to sort of just go off of it. So the idea was to sort of, grade the property so that it had a nice gentle slope going down into where the water course was, which we were hoping not to touch, but we were trying to clean out the trees and sort of the old shrubs and grade the property so the drop off was much more slight than it had been. And that was the intent, really.
The other comment, perhaps just to try to understand tree work as well.
Yeah.
My recollection of the property prior to even purchasing it, I believe you purchased it potentially from a person who had lived there for quite some time.
Yes, deceased person.
Okay, so in an estate, what condition was the property in generally from a tree perspective? Had there been tree maintenance? Did you have a lot of dead ash? Did you have, just a recollection, just so maybe we could understand the tree work that was done as well?
We like I said, we probably have taken down since we moved in, maybe 5 to 10 trees in total. Some were dead, some for optics, for beautification of the lawn. When you had come, I think on the right side. So I don't know if those 5 logs, it could be a culmination of the right and left.
Right.
But in the wetlands, it was a lot of shrubs, overgrown shrubs. I don't know if you have visuals from old pictures, but it was I don't think we took down like 10 trees in the wetlands. It could have been 2 to 3. It was a lot of shrubs and overgrown stuff.
Okay.
So the property was good in terms of the lawn going down slope. But then when you got to this, what now is the wall and towards the water course, everything was sort of overgrown, which I think you had seen at one point quite a while ago. Yeah. So
okay.
Tree work was done. Front of the property was in pretty good condition, generally speaking, but there was some overgrown element towards the wetlands.
Okay.
Let me ask you. Do I understand that maybe the houses next to you on either side, as you look at your house, the same issue happened to them as you, and they may have filled in something like you're now filling in? Do you know anything about the history of that street?
I have, what I think what
go ahead
happened, but
I'd like to hear it.
Prefer not to speak on hypotheticals, but I have a feeling the street has a lot of wetlands. And I have a feeling that over time, either current owners or previous owners had done a lot of work in terms of filling in things, because the properties are all sort of similar, right?
They certainly are.
On the west side of Beach Road, it all goes up a hill and they all sort of have the same thing going. So, I think a lot of work had been done,
And filling wetlands.
Yeah.
Huh?
So.
Well, Mr.
Help us, but
no,
it's nice to know. I mean,
well, it doesn't surprise me. It seems to me if you walk around or drive around that area, it's pretty obvious that over the years there has been degradation of the wetlands through activities of one kind or another, which may or may not have occurred before the wetlands regulations. And even if they occurred after the wetlands regulations, may or may not have been permitted. But we are where we are in 2023. It's important to get a permit to undertake work in regulated areas. And, I come back to the point that we really don't know what is in that material that's been brought into your property in a very substantial quantity. So my question is, wouldn't the safest course of action for protection of the wetlands going forward be just to remove all the fill that was brought in 2023, go back to the status quo ante. I do not understand from what's been presented here tonight or the application what the harm to the wetlands will be if you were to remove more than you're proposing of that 2023 fill.
What we're trying to do is limit the disturbance, any more disturbance. We basically want to get this site planted and stabilized. Right now, it's just raw. It's like an open wound that's been there for months. And if we can test the soil and prove that there's no harm in leaving it there, then I think from the wetlands perspective and the health of the wetlands, the better course of action is to just plant it and stabilize it and be done with it, rather than moving more dirt around. I think the more dirt you move around, the more opportunity there is for soil to get deposited into the wetlands. And I think that's what we're all trying to protect. So that's why I think we shouldn't remove any more fill than we absolutely need to at this point.
I'm having a hard time with getting to the conclusion of what we absolutely need to remove and what we don't absolutely need to remove. I mean, help me understand what the difference is.
So what we have to remove is, again, the slope is like this right now. And on zoning regulations, we have to be like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have to remove 60 yards of material. That's what my planting plan or my site plan shows. The proposed grading gets us to that. And that's what the cross sections show. The alternative plan just basically takes out more fill and gets it a shallower slope. And I provided that alternative plan because we're required to provide alternatives. And it is something that is feasible. That doesn't mean it's prudent. You know, we have to provide feasible and prudent alternatives. And, you know, the prudent course of action, in my professional opinion, if the soils if the fill that is there is acceptable, is to leave it. That's the least impactful to the wetlands at this point.
So perhaps you can go through in a bit more detail the catastrophic things that could happen if you were required to remove 100% of that 2023 fill.
The more machinery and the more soil removed, the greater the potential for disturbance going into the wetland. If you do nothing, there's no potential disturbance. If you do some disturbance, there's some potential for impact to the wetlands. If you do more disturbance, there's more potential for impact. So I'm trying to strike a delicate balance between what we absolutely need to do from a zoning perspective, what we have to do to protect the wetlands, and that's get it stabilized, get the land stabilized and planted, and try to get back to the condition from a vegetative cover that there was prior to the work being done.
So if you were to remove more fill than you're proposing, would you be using different equipment?
Be the same equipment, but we'd be there longer. It would take many more truckloads to get out. You know, you're disturbing more of an area. Again, the excavation that I have is very isolated along this line here, as I'm showing on the drawing. Here, I'll blow it up a little bit so you can see it on the screen a little better. It's basically, it's this little area in here. On the alternative plan, this proposed grading comes way back out into this area. So now we're showing a much greater limit of disturbance. And that's what got us in trouble in the first place, was all the disturbance. So I'm trying to limit what we're doing.
Well, what got you into trouble in the first place was that fill was brought in without a permit.
We're saying the same thing.
Not quite.
It's disturbance.
Not quite.
No. Yes. It's the disturbance is what got us in trouble. It was without a permit. You're correct.
Is the fill that's stockpiled there the same exactly fill that you've already put in?
So there's so fill, for lack of a better term, and that's the stuff that's in the ground. And then the 3 piles of soil right now, that's clean fill, supposedly.
That's the soil stockpile is cleaner.
Cleaner.
So you
cleaner
knew
fill.
there was
cleaner.
But why did you change?
That was supposed to be like a top layer.
I
top
see.
soil.
I see. Okay.
To Angela's question about the potential harm to having additional soils removed, under the second alternative, or if all soils were determined to be removed, am I mistaken that as we increase the amount of fill to be removed, you'd be removing fill that's further away from the wetlands, further upland review area?
Correct.
So I think what I'm logically having, I appreciate what you're saying. The longer machines are there, the more machines are moving around. There is some, there might be some potential of soils getting into the wetlands. But as that work is getting further away from the wetlands, doesn't that risk decrease? I think the argument might be stronger if the greater amount of fill to be removed was closer, as you were taking it from closer to the wetlands.
Yes, you do have a point there. Again, it would be further away from the wetland. So the further away from the wetland, the less potential impact. I had a thought and it just flew out of my head.
And would it be possible to take additional mitigation efforts as you got further away from the wetlands to say have two rows of silt fences to decrease what is flowing downhill?
Right. We could, obviously throw more erosion controls at it. But my thought in my head was we would be removing fill from an upland area. The fill that was in the wetlands has been removed. So we're talking about removing fill from an upland area versus fill that's in a wetland.
So Matt Pop, I always look at it too is with the fill, what is the adverse impact to the wetland for leaving the fill, beyond in the alternative? Is there an adverse impact to the wetlands? If there isn't, I'm not sure what the point is to remove it.
Well, I think the issue is that we really don't know what's been brought onto the property. And, maybe the safest course of action to protect the wetlands, because that is our remit, just the wetlands. But given where this foreign fill has been deposited, then anything that is contaminated will flow right down to the wetlands. I must say, I'm beginning to wonder if the one course of action might be to have the fill tested before we make any final decision.
Yeah, that's good.
That's a reasonable request.
That's reasonable,
Right now, I'm sorry, Otto, go ahead.
Well,
I move a little bit closer so we can get you on.
Yeah, I'm not sure that basically what I was thinking is, there were those like 5 ditches, if you will, that came perpendicular away from the stream. But then also what I didn't say was that there was like 4 more that we added where the bend in the stream is. Okay. And then this area in here, of course, we didn't go under the stockpile, but around the stockpile, we took test pits also. And what we noticed was that showed, wetland soil features. So yeah, there was some fill over the top of it, but then underneath, wetland soil features. So I guess you could scrape off some of the, the material that was put on top of it. But
again, it was historic fill atop of wetland features.
It's still going to be lawn,
right?
Regardless,
right?
But I think getting the soil tested, I think would be appropriate.
Yeah,
and take us through that. Are there places around here that would test?
Phoenix Laboratory.
This laboratory.
They'll do that?
Yeah, they'll come to the site.
Okay. All right. Well, we have somebody picked out already. Yeah.
Well, that's their contractor who apparently provided that other sheet, or did provide that other sheet.
Like I said, there's not a ton of testing laboratories.
Yeah, you can use whoever you like, but they have to be a certified lab, DEP. At a minimum, it's 10 samples per 1,000 square feet.
And 10 per 1,000.
10 per 1,000. And I would double check with the laboratory to indicate that they're comfortable with 10 per 1,000 square feet of any area where fill has been brought onto the site. So they may have to go to the far side of the driveway, because that has, even though there's no wetland soils there, you have fill.
That makes sense.
So any of those disturbed areas is included in the calculation for 10 samples per 1,000 square feet.
So are we talking about the disturbed area north of the driveway and south?
Yeah,
Yes.
because it all runs into the water course.
Right.
So if any fill, to Commissioner Jameson's point, is going to remain on site, it has to be verified clean and suitable to be remaining on the site. I think the homeowner would want that as well, just for their family safety and everything. So
So I guess
we're protecting the wetlands.
Sure.
We're protecting your family.
Ahead of time.
Well, we didn't. Yeah, we needed to hear that from the commission. So I guess the only course of action is to hold this open until the next hearing.
Say that again. What?
Hold this open. I mean, we can't move forward tonight until we get this.
I would continue to
Continue it to November?
Yes.
Is that what you said? Yeah.
Oh, they have
What,
to
what else can we
We have
do?
to contact the testing lab and see when can they come out and when can they, I'll keep Kathy apprised of this.
What's a good time to get the whole thing done? We're going into the winter time now. Is this more springtime or?
I leave that to you guys.
What?
I mean, the planting.
The sooner the better. I wouldn't want to be seeding at the end of November into December. But if you were a developer, you would be probably doing it any time of the year.
Yeah.
But if it gets if it ends up being later in the season, just have to make sure the erosion controls are.
Well, I wasn't speaking about taking samples. I was really getting the whole project, the application. Yeah.
I would, based on what I'm hearing as a staff person to the commission, I would look closely at, first of all, get your soil samples done. Let's communicate on that so we make sure that it's done properly. I'm happy to be there present during the soil sampling or talk to the lab as far as what we're looking for this location. Secondly, I would look for yet a third alternative between A and B. That might increase some additional buffer room between the actual wetland edge and the toe of the slope of fill that could potentially remain on the site. I don't think that there's we didn't talk about it, but split rail fence versus boulders. Split rail fence is a reasonable alternative to boulders. Boulders are not so great. No one wants to mow around them.
Okay.
It's good about it. Yeah.
So you keep Kathleen. Okay. Are we set on this now?
Does anyone have any other questions or any comments?
Angela Jameson for the record. I'd just like to be able to take a look at the results well ahead of the next meeting and, not just to be presented with them at the meeting itself. Very hard to make a really good, thoughtful decision. And if you're just suddenly presented with something that is kind of complicated to look at.
Yeah, I think the real issue is going to be, can we get, how soon can we get the testing company out there? Can we get them out there, have them do the testing, have them report, and then come up and then digest the results in advance of the next meeting? Because the next meeting's when?
November. I was just going to tell you the next meeting is November 20th. So I would like testing any additional information that you're going to provide for the record filed on or before November 13th.
Yeah, and I think we would like whoever you select, once they're finished, to come here before us and talk to us. Okay, is that possible?
I can ask. I don't know if they do that as part of their services or if they just say,
ask.
So the sampling is to be done by November 13th.
Results by November 13th.
Results submitted.
Right.
Ask testing company if they will present. Sorry, I don't do dictation very well.
This is your chance. So if there's anything additional that you want the applicant to do, now would be the time to ask.
What do you think, Angela?
I would like to see more about that wall that was put up without a permit. Now, give us a few more details about exactly what was done, please. I know it's hard to piece it together after the fact, but again, you know, that was something else that we would have asked quite a lot of questions about had you come for a permit before us.
Yeah, I think the only way for me to give any more detail is to expose part of the foundation of it. So
On all the time.
okay,
After
I'm just
the
letting you
fact
know that's the only,
investigation.
I can't see it. All I can see is what's on the ground. So
yeah,
can't see. I don't have X-ray vision anymore.
Anything else? We'll see you on November 20th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Continuing the application.
So, Rob, if you could stop sharing. Very good.
And I'll even exit the.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go back to let Jay. Jay's gonna several. I'm just gonna let it in as the as. Yeah. No. Okay.
Did you want more? Did you want to say more to?
No.
Get more?
No, it's November 18th.
Okay.
Oh, no, this is 2020.
You're just.
Okay.
All right, so application number 23, I'm sorry, application number, 23, 24, 08, 29 Strawberry Hill Road. Jonathan Kane. Oh, okay.
Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. Share screen is where?
I made you a co-host, so you should just simply be able to share your screen. There we go. It's connecting. Oh, turn off your desktop.
Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. So on here, is there a way to mute on your keyboard?
It's on Zoom, it might be the dots in the top right.
Which one?
Top right of the screen.
To get out of the
I don't know this device.
So that's going to.
I wasn't here the last time.
Thank you. Yeah, that's him.
Yes, I muted it right here and then here.
I was going to say top right. It's been seen. If that makes a difference. No.
Kathleen, I'm not getting any sound.
How's that? Support is my company.
What we muted, unfortunately, was muted region of Georgia, the broadcast gets muted, so they turn off your device altogether. George, can you hear us?
A little bit, you're a little muted, but let's try it and see what happens.
All right, I just gotta, should be better.
Yeah, I heard that pretty well.
Okay. I'll do this. I'm Jay Petro, here representing Jonathan Kane and Joanne Russo at 29 Strawberry Hill Road in New Canaan. We did a landscape plan, so there's a colored landscape design plan that shows in the back. So we're just talking about the back area for this purpose. A patio that is built that will contain a hot tub and stairs down to grade. The grade in the back slopes down pretty steeply once it gets a little bit away from the house. So I was trying to keep the patio somewhat close so that retaining wall wouldn't be too high, which it's not. I don't know the exact measurement of that, but we stayed out of the wetland line area for the construction of the patio. Around the new patio would be mostly all native wetland plants and various other non-natives outside the wetland area, but in the wetland area, we're using all native plants, and the idea here is to prevent some erosion, because right now it's basically just dirt with some mulch on top. There are a few shrubs, certainly on the house side of the stream, and on the other side in the woods, there's some invasives, but basically it's just covered with leaves. Not too many plants. There's some taller trees and maples. So our goal is to just repopulate the wetlands with native plants to prevent erosion, add some beauty to the area, and create an outdoor entertaining area for the people, the Canes, to have a hot tub and dine out. I've worked with the Aspetuck Land Trust on some of their parks. I've worked with the Audubon, Connecticut. So I've been doing a lot of wetland type and native plantings around here, done meadows, and I've given talks at like the New Canaan Nature Center. I've worked with Earth Place in Westport. So I'm also a partner with the Aspetuck Land Trust in terms of helping them, and they sort of reference me to their people that are interested in doing some native planting. So I'm quite familiar with this. Been doing it for 15 years, and the goal here is to help the pollinators, prevent erosion, and give the people on the property a nice place to hang out. So from the property, like the top level that meets the street in the front, when you walk through the house to the back is a deck, but it's elevated because the property slopes down. So in the plan, the architect has put in a circular staircase from that upper deck to the lower patio that would be built as well. And we kept that away from the wetland area. That's it. Questions?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, good. I have a quick
Sorry to
question.
those guys.
Yeah. You're
Not that easy.
grilled them
No,
pretty good. When we had our application meeting, I feel like Mr. Kane may have said there may be a phasing of some of the work. Is there any phasing, or did he decide?
Phasing, well, he wants to do the patio, so we would do the patio first.
Okay.
You know, and because I wouldn't want to plant around a patio and then
Right.
destroy it
Right.
anyway. I think when we talked, I had mentioned we could put in some evergreen trees and some shrubs down outside the wetlands, but towards the back of the property.
Right.
We could do that now, but at this point, I'm not sure we're going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. But
And
that would be outside.
And I was a little distracted, but did you mention how you're actually going to implement the planting?
I didn't mention that.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no, the wetland planting is going to be small trees, container bushes, some, you know, potted perennials. So that will all be hand dug. There'll be no machinery, certainly not across the wetland area. And yeah, we have a river birch near the wetland. I'm not sure it's in the line or near it, but that we can hand dig if it's in the wetland. I'm not sure exactly where that's going to be placed, but any trees that are near the wetlands would just be hand dug in.
Okay.
There would be a machine to plant some of the bigger evergreens down slope, and they would probably use a small machine for excavating out to put the base for the new patio and the stone walls. But because it slopes down, there's less material than if it was all level, because some of it's right now already excavated. You know, it's already sloped.
So are you going to put plants around the patio? I know you're going to do it by the brook there going down.
Yeah, if you look at the plan, it's got, I always do a lot of planting. So all around the patio.
All around the patio.
And between the patio and the wetlands, it's sort of too narrow to have a lawn anyway. So I'm just going to create a nice garden there with all plants. So there won't be any runoff off the lawn or anything. And I'm not going to like say, okay, now we're out of the wetlands. I'm not going to use native plants, because my goal in all my designs is to use mostly native plants anyway, 70%.
Have you picked an agency or a firm to do this? Are you going to do it? Or
I do it.
Oh, you do it. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry.
So I'm a design build company.
Okay.
And so I buy the plants and get them delivered. I place them.
Oh,
then
wow,
I've
got
had
it.
laborers that work for me, and then for bigger jobs, I bring in other contractors to machinery. But I would supervise it either way.
And how many days would it take to do something like that?
Less than a week. The planting. I mean, the patio and the walls, that's a month probably.
On the house side of the stream, maybe a little bit down from the current patio, where it's kind of dirt, maybe mulch, seems like there's been a lot of water flowing over that area. Granted, it's been a very wet fall. I'm not sure if it's water going into the stream or if it's the stream, you know, jumping the water course. Are the plantings going to stabilize that area? Do you think is that the intention?
Yes, it is. I think the way that the stream is built right now, there's stone walls on the sides. So unless it's flooding, I don't think you're getting that kind of erosion from the stream. I think it's just other lawn and, you know, whatever patio, but I think it's just running off. But yeah, that was my biggest concern, that area. So we're going to plant that very heavily, you know, plants a foot apart to really stabilize that. Probably mostly ferns, but you know, we've got a whole long list of plants here.
So the patio and the hot tub are not in the wetlands, but what distance from the wetlands are they? It's a little hard to tell given that it's quite a steeply sloping piece of property.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have that measured off, but it's probably the corner of that spa. It looks like it's probably about 8 to 10 feet from the wetland line. And the reason I did sort of do that zag is because the grade drops considerably right on that corner. So the retaining wall would have had to be over 3 feet. Yeah, I just just didn't seem worth it to disturb it and to do that. So I try to create a design that we wouldn't have to overbuild and be sensitive to the area.
Do you foresee any challenges in implementing this plan?
No. That seems pretty straightforward.
And assuming it's approved, when do you plan on doing the plantings?
I would assume that if we got approvals, that he would then work with a contractor to build the patio and the hot tub. I don't know what the availability of the hot tub is. They can't really finish this without having the hot tub. And so I don't know if they've gone that far. I haven't been privy to that. They have a contractor, they're doing some work inside as well. So they've been sort of working with that contractor, but I don't know. Ideally, they would do that this winter, and then in the spring we would plant around it. So that would be ideal. And I don't see why that wouldn't work unless the spa is not available for some reason.
We've had some heavy storms lately. Does the water ever get to the top of that banks? I know it's pretty deep in there, but
I don't know personally. I mean, it looks like they've added rock previously to prevent the erosion.
So it wouldn't wash away. The water is not going to wash away any of the plantings or anything like that.
I think once they're established, well, I don't know if you all went to the site visit, but some of the shrubs that were put in years ago, some of the root balls are exposed from erosion near there. So I think over time that's happened, but my goal is to really plant it heavily and try and get all that established. And so hopefully that won't be a problem. But
any other questions or anything? All right, can I hear a motion? Anyone want to make a motion? Are there any special?
I had a couple recommendations for your consideration. A big part of this plan is landscaping, vital landscape designer. So I was suggesting that the landscape designer actually provide the oversight. Sounds like you're going to be doing it anyway, of the planting installation, and that he provide a final report to staff upon the completion of that planting.
I had a question. So what does the final report look like?
That you're verifying all plants are in. Maybe we swapped a couple things out, or depending on availability.
Just like final plant listed. And...
Exactly. Okay. Nothing too technical, just you're verifying it as a designer that everything's been installed or whatever changes had been made.
Sure.
And then because there's construction activities, a building permit would be required for the patio and the spa. Those things do require an A2 survey be provided to the town. So an A2 survey would be provided as part of the project as well. And then any other conditions that you all might think of.
So this is Angela Jameson. I'd like to move approval of the application, subject to the 2 special conditions that Kathleen Holland just cited.
Can I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Priscilla?
Priscilla, yeah. All those in favor? All right. Motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I just ask you before you leave, what is your device?
It's just an iPad.
It's an iPad. Okay. I just trying to.
It's relatively new and I haven't
figure out what happened.
I've been on Zoom before, but not broadcasting like this.
Okay. Yeah.
So Kathleen, I had that issue when I was presenting to planning and zoning.
Oh.
And the woman who sits in the office directly opposite you, can't think of her name.
Sarah?
Sarah came over and whoop, whoop, fixed it.
Okay.
What she did though.
I'll ask Sarah. Okay.
So that's an Apple
You can tell me.
I will tell you. Yeah.
I guess it's something to do with apples, and mine's brand new as well.
Yeah.
I was here 2 months ago.
Oh.
And you were using an iPad?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a laptop, but it's
right.
It is just
a big iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know those have created some issues, but I don't know how to solve that issue. So I'll have to figure that out. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Administrative actions, we have three there. Kathleen, would you anything you want to highlight there?
No, these are all fairly new ones. They are on the agenda. If you had taken a look at that, there's some activities at 17 Turtleback Road, Lane West. That's a new property owner at that location, and they'll be doing the construction of a large detached barn with an attached deck. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, but at least they went through their permitting within the wetlands to get that in place. And then we'll see, eventually we'll see a building permit application on that. I don't believe I've seen it yet. The next one is for activities at 52 St. George Lane. That is for a patio, a pool, and patio and a garage cabana feature at that location. All of these activities that I'm listing here are in the upland review area for these locations and did require permits from inland wetlands. The last one is a property located at 51 Harrison Avenue. Fairly new owner at that location as well. And they're employed Stex Nursery to install a gunite pool and an incredible amount of landscaping around that particular property. So that is getting ready to move forward. I think their permitting with the building department is on it, coming through the process now.
All right, thank you. You all have a copy of the schedule of meetings for next year. You have any comments or whatever? This is basically what we do each year.
We do each year, just kind of giving you the layout of, believe it or not, we're looking at 2024 already.
Wow. We'll
get this to the first selectman's office so Pam can get us on the calendar for wherever we need to be. And I just like to get this published because I know I'll be having appointments very early in January for folks. They're looking at the schedule. So that's just a matter of business. One last thing, Dan had asked me about some additional training. I did send it out late this afternoon. There is Kakiwik, Connecticut. It's a long name, but anyway.
Connecticut Association of Conservation and Inland Wetlands Commission.
Kakiwik. They are having their annual conference November 11th. If anyone's interested in going, that it is a Saturday. It's like a big ask. This happens to be a really excellent conference. They have numerous training opportunities. They break it down into 3 different segments, but then within those segments, there's 3 different things you can choose from. Many of us have gone to these trainings in the past, and they're all really quite good. The town will pay for your fee. You just need to let us know. We're on a kind of a tight time frame. So within a week, if you could let Lola know if you're interested, we'll get you registered and get the fee paid. And
we normally take a car or 2, and it depends on how many people. So it starts at 8, and I guess the first half hour is registration. So we would leave about 7:30 from town hall here, and then it's over with at 3:30 in the afternoon. And you're back here by 4:30, at the latest, really.
Where is it physically?
It's in Bristol, Connecticut. Bristol, Connecticut.
It's a brand new conference center. I was looking at it. It looks pretty sleek.
Yeah. I would highly recommend it. Yeah. I'm planning on going. I haven't been for about 4 or 5 years, so I highly recommend.
Yeah, I'm I'm hoping to go too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you,
Anybody
you know,
else
I-
interested?
Coffee there.
Oh, that, you'll get lunch and coffee.
Get lunch
and
and
pastries.
oh yeah, everything's paid for.
There's
Yeah.
also vendors, so you get lots of tchotchkes and things.
And the keynote speaker is
oh yeah, keynote speaker
a
looks good.
fellow named Professor James O'Donnell, professor of marine sciences at UConn, and he's also director of the Connecticut Institute for Resilience and Climate Adaptation, and that's like it might be interesting.
Yeah.
You know,
Keynote speeches are usually pretty good.
very good. Yeah. So hope you can go. Anything else?
Okay. That's it.
But remember, a week from today, you have to is the deadline for Lola. You have to call Lola, email Lola, and all right. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Katie?
Yep.
All right. Who's going to second it?
I'll second it.
All right. Beth? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. And George, yes.
Yes, very good meeting. Enjoyed it very much.
I got it.
It's nice watching.